So here's something I've seen over and over again. Clients, students, everyday people, they come to me in complete disarray. They're chaotic, overwhelmed, and often they're paralyzed. You ask them what's wrong, and they'll say something like, I don't know what to do with my life. But it doesn't stop there. It's layered. It's, I don't know what to do, and I don't even know what to do about the fact that I don't know what to do. And that's brutal. That kind of existential fog, it's soul crushing. Now, most people would think, okay, this person needs therapy. And sure, that's not wrong. But a lot of clinicians, especially in modern psychology, approach this as a self-development journey. The idea is help them reach self-actualization. That's the big buzzword, right? But I don't think that's the full picture. I'm influenced by a more communitarian philosophy. People don't find meaning in life solely by discovering themselves. They find it by stepping into roles that matter to other people. They adopt responsibility. And it's not about the wagging finger kind of responsibility, the kind that says, you should do this because it's your duty. No, that's not the point. You take on responsibility because that's where real meaning is found. And let me tell you, when life hits hard, and it will with suffering, illness, loss, you're going to need something deep and real to hold on to. And that something is rarely a self-love mantra or a TikTok quote. It's the people who stand by you, the ones you stood by when they needed it. It's the strength of the community you helped build. That's what gets you through. I've been seriously ill before, years of it. And what pulled me through wasn't some magical spark of individual greatness. It was my family, my friends, and the broader community that had my back practically and emotionally. That matters. That saves lives. That saves sanity. We talk a lot about sacrifice like it's this old-fashioned idea. But here's the truth: sacrificing for others, your family, your partner, your work, your community, brings depth to life. That's where the meaning lives. Not because it's nice or expected, but because it transforms your pain into purpose. There's this cliche, it's better to give than to receive, and sure, we've all rolled our eyes at that on some level. It sounds like something off a Hallmark card. But if you actually watch yourself, really observe your life, you'll start to realize that it's true. One of the most powerful feelings in the world is knowing you've helped someone. That something you said or did made someone else's life even a little bit better. I've had people come up to me, strangers, thanking me for something I said years ago. They'll say, that helped me out of a really dark place. And I'm telling you, there's no high like that. There's no comparison. There's nothing else in life that hits that deep. That's the kind of thing that doesn't just give you meaning, it gives you energy to keep going. So when people come to me lost, directionless, I don't just ask them to reflect on who they are. I ask them, what responsibilities have you adopted? Who depends on you? Who would be worse off if you disappeared tomorrow? Those are the real questions. And if your answer is no one, then no wonder you feel miserable. Let's look at where people find meaning. It's not a mystery. We actually already know. The research is clear, and your own experience probably is too. First, do you have an intimate relationship? Yes or no? The answer to that question alone changes the whole trajectory of your life. Now, I get it. Not everyone is in one right now. Maybe you've chosen not to be. Maybe life hasn't aligned for that yet. That's okay. But for the vast majority of people, a stable, loving, long-term relationship is where a massive chunk of meaning comes from. And if you don't have that, it could very well be why everything else feels like it's spinning. And when people ask me, how do I find the right person? Because believe me, I get that question constantly, especially on tour. I always flip it on them. I say, okay, hold up. What if that's the wrong question entirely? What if, instead of asking how to find the right person, you started by asking, how can I be the kind of person that someone amazing would actually want to be with? Because, think about it, let's say you do meet someone perfect, absolutely perfect for you. Now ask yourself, would they want you? It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's worth thinking about. Are you someone worth dating right now? Are you a good partner? Are you stable, honest, interesting, responsible, fun to be around? If not, don't go chasing someone else. Work on you. So maybe the better approach to dating isn't, how do I find them? But rather, what can I bring to the table? If you start there, you'll either attract someone who matches that energy or you'll start to understand what's holding you back. And either way, that's progress. Now, let's say you are in a relationship or you're hoping to build one. Here's what I often tell people: develop a vision for it. Get clear, like really clear. Don't just say, I want someone who gets me. No. Get specific. Ask yourself, how do I want to be treated when I come home from work? How do I want to treat them? What's their attitude toward children, toward stress, toward money, toward growth? And here's the big idea: you get what you aim for. If you aim at nothing, you hit nothing. So ask, knock, seek. And don't take that lightly. Those aren't passive suggestions. They're deeply demanding acts. To ask for something real in life means you must also be willing to let go of all the things that are holding you back from getting it. You can't just whisper into the void, I want love, and hope the universe drops a relationship in your lap. You have to become someone who's ready for that love, someone who can receive it, hold it, and give it back. And all of that starts with responsibility. Let's keep going, because this isn't just about finding someone or becoming more appealing as a partner. It goes deeper than that. It's about laying the groundwork for a life that's worth living. Now, here's something: most people overlook your relationships with your family. And I mean your current family, not just the one you might build later. Your parents, your siblings, the people you didn't choose, but who shaped you nonetheless. And I get it. Not everyone has a great relationship with their parents or siblings. Some people have been hurt, abandoned, or let down. I'm not saying you have to love your family unconditionally or pretend everything's okay when it's not. But I am saying that healing or improving those relationships where possible is one of the most powerful transformations you can make. If your relationship with your father is broken, if you haven't spoken to your mother in years, or if you and your siblings avoid each other at family gatherings, start there. Ask yourself, what would it look like if this relationship were whole? Not perfect, just whole, just functioning. And what would I have to do, not what they would have to do, to take the first step? Because here's the thing. You don't get to write the whole story of your life, but you do get to edit the next chapter. Now, let's talk about children. Do you want kids? Could you see yourself raising a child? That's a serious question, and it's not for everyone. But I'll say this. People who do it well, who raise their kids with intention, love, and structure, often say it's one of the most meaningful things they've ever done. When I think about my relationship with my son, it's one of the absolute brightest lights of my life. And not because it was easy. No relationship is. My daughter's health challenges made our family dynamic complicated for a long time. But the time, the effort, the attention, we poured everything into making that relationship strong. not just functional, pristine. We set out to be deliberate, to be the kind of family that actually wanted to spend time together. And that meant sacrifice. That meant listening when we were exhausted, showing up when it would have been easier to check out, and caring, genuinely caring about how our words and actions affected each other. So, if you're thinking about becoming a parent someday, don't just ask yourself, do I want kids? Ask, what kind of parent do I want to be? What do I want my kids to say about me when they're adults? What values do I want to model? Not just teach. That's the kind of thinking that reshapes your life before your kids are even born. Now, zooming out again, let's talk about career. What are you doing with your time? Not just for money, but for purpose. What value are you bringing into the world? And this is where a lot of people get stuck. We live in a culture obsessed with status. The corner office, the fancy title, the followers, the six-figure salary. But here's the thing, none of that guarantees meaning. So I always flip the question, how much good could you do if you went all in? If you stopped playing it safe, stopped doing the bare minimum, and actually took your gifts seriously? What if instead of just trying to climb the ladder, you asked, what's the fastest route I can take to make a meaningful impact on my team, on my customers, on the people around me? What if that was the game you played? You don't need to be famous to matter. You just need to matter to someone. And that could be your coworkers, your clients, your community. And guess what? If you're doing that consistently, if you're showing up as someone who makes life better for others, success tends to follow. You don't even have to start big. Just pick one area. Ask yourself, how could I be a light for the people around me? And I know some of you are thinking, well, what if I mess up? What if I aim high and fail? But listen, everyone deviates. Everyone falls off track. The key is recognizing the deviation and having a strong enough vision to come back to it. Your vision is your compass, and if you don't have one, you'll wander, period. Which brings us to the question of time. How are you spending your time outside of work? Are you being productive, generous, meaningful, or are you just passing the time until the next distraction? It's worth looking at, because life isn't just made up of career wins. It's made up of moments. Time with friends, time in nature, time thinking, learning, growing. And that time, it can either fill you up or it can slowly drain you if you're not intentional. And while we're talking about responsibility, let's get real for a second. Temptation is always around. Alcohol, drugs, sex, screens. We live in a world of endless options and instant gratification. And the easy route, it's right there. But here's the truth. You only resist temptation when you believe you're sacrificing it for something better. That's it. Nobody gives up pleasure for pain. But people do give up shallow short-term pleasure for deep, long-term peace. So, what are you trading your self-control for? What are you building in its place? Because if it's nothing, then of course you'll go back to the impulse, the drink, the late night, the distraction. You can't just subtract. You need something better to run toward. And that starts with organizing your life, following a schedule. Now I know schedules get a bad rap. People think of them as prisons. I don't want to be boxed in. I want freedom. But I'll tell you what I've seen. The people who are the most free are the ones who have structure. A schedule doesn't limit your freedom. It creates it. Because when your life is chaotic, when you're constantly behind, when your day owns you instead of the other way around, That's not freedom. That's low-grade misery. So yeah, start simple. Use Google Calendar. Grab a planner. Block out your day. But don't just cram it full of things you hate. That's where most people go wrong. They build a schedule like they're a tyrant ordering themselves around. But here's a better way to think about it. What kind of day would actually be good for me? What kind of week would I enjoy? Plan a life you want to live, not one you want to escape from. And here's a little trick. Don't try to schedule 10 hours of intense work every day if you've never done that before. You'll burn out. You'll quit. You'll start resenting the calendar. Instead, start with 1 hour, then 2, then build from there. Balance responsibility with reward. Give yourself something to look forward to. And when you look at your schedule, ask, would I actually enjoy living this week? If the answer is yes, then you're on the right track, Dot. So let's talk about this next level, having a vision. Not just a vague dream, a real vision. Most people never get what they want out of life because, frankly, they don't know what they're aiming for. They've never actually stopped, sat down, and asked themselves, what do I want my life to look like in 5 years, in 10 years? That's not some cheesy journal prompt. That's the foundation of everything. And here's the wild part. Most of us do this backwards. We think, if I just work hard enough, or if I keep putting out fires, I'll eventually stumble into a good life. But that's not how it works. You don't fall into a great life. You build one, and you can't build without blueprints. So here's the challenge. Grab a notebook, a Google Doc, anything, and write this down. Where do I want to live? What kind of work do I want to be doing? Who do I want in my life? What do I want my body to feel like? How much money do I want to be making? How do I want to spend my mornings? How do I want to end my days? This doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be 100% realistic right now. But you need to get it out of your head and into words. Because the act of writing is the act of aiming. And once you start aiming, you start seeing paths. You start seeing opportunities. You start saying no to things that don't fit and yes to things that do. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Life pushes back. As soon as you start walking toward something, better life will throw tests at you. Not because it hates you, but because everything meaningful comes with friction. You want to be fit, there's the resistance of early mornings and sore muscles. You want a thriving business, there's the friction of uncertainty of hearing no more than yes. You want a deep relationship, there's the discomfort of vulnerability, compromise, and honest communication. So yes, life pushes back, but the question is, will you push forward anyway? Because here's the deal. Clarity creates courage. When you know what you want, when you've seen it clearly in your mind, you're way more likely to fight for it. But vague goals, vague dreams, you won't fight for those. You'll let them go at the first sign of trouble. So build a vision that's specific enough to pull you through chaos. That's your anchor. Let me give you an example. Let's say you wake up and your day is chaotic. You slept late, you feel off. Work is stressful, you're hungry, annoyed, behind on everything. In that moment, it's very easy to fall into patterns. Junk food, doom scrolling, snapping at people checking out. But if you have a vision, you pause. You remember, this isn't who I'm becoming. You look at your planner and think, all right, I'm way behind, but what's the one thing I can still do today that moves me toward my goal? That's the power of vision. It rescues you. It resets you. Now, Let's be clear. Vision without action is just daydreaming. So let's get into the second half of this equation: discipline. And I know, discipline sounds heavy. It sounds like punishment. But real discipline isn't punishment, it's protection. It's structure. It's the thing that says, I'm not going to let my worst impulses win today. Discipline isn't about being harsh on yourself. It's about being kind to your future self. Because, think about it. If you truly care about your future, you act like it. You take care of your body. You protect your time. You make smart financial decisions. You say no to things that feel good now, but cost you later. That's real love. That's real self-respect. Not bubble baths and affirmation cards, decisions that honor your future. So how do you build discipline if it doesn't come naturally to you? You start tiny. Forget massive overhauls. Forget trying to transform your life in 24 hours. That never sticks. Instead, pick one thing, just one that aligns with your vision, and do it every day. Maybe it's waking up at the same time. Maybe it's writing 50 words a day. Maybe it's drinking a full glass of water before coffee. Maybe it's walking for 10 minutes. Small wins build momentum, and momentum builds identity. You go from, I'm trying to, this is who I am. And once that shift happens, everything gets easier. Not easy, but easier. Because now you're not battling yourself every step of the way. You've built a rhythm, a baseline. You're not questioning if you'll show up. You just do. It becomes part of you. And yes, you'll still slip. You'll still have off days. That's life. But when the foundation is strong, you bounce back faster. You don't spiral. You course correct. Because you know where you're headed. So here's what I want you to remember from this part. Vision creates direction. Discipline protects the vision. Small steps compound over time. That's it. That's the formula. Not overnight change, not motivation hype, just clarity plus consistency plus compassion for yourself on the hard days. It's simple, but it's not easy. And that's exactly why it works. Let's get real for a minute. You can have the clearest vision. You can write the most organized plan. You can fill your calendar with meaningful blocks and checklists. But if you don't know how to handle your emotions, none of that will last. Because your emotions will hijack your progress if you don't know how to deal with them. Let's talk about it. Emotional mastery. Now, this isn't about suppressing emotions. It's not about being a rock or pretending you're too tough to feel anything. That's not mastery. That's denial. Real emotional mastery is knowing what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and what to do with it without letting it destroy your focus, your relationships, or your self-respect. Think about it. How many people do you know who ruined something good in their life because they couldn't control one moment of anger, one wave of jealousy, one surge of insecurity? You don't rise to the level of your ambition. You fall to the level of your emotional regulation. So let's break this down. First, name it. Sounds simple, right? But most people don't do this. Something hits them, a weird text, a disappointing conversation, a failure, and suddenly they're spiraling. They lash out, shut down, or distract themselves. But if you pause even for 10 seconds and ask, what am I actually feeling right now? Everything slows down. It's like hitting the brakes before going off a cliff. I'm not just angry. I'm embarrassed. I'm not just tired. I feel unappreciated. I'm not just anxious. I feel like I'm not in control. See the difference? That awareness gives you power. Because when you name the emotion, you can start managing it instead of being managed by it. Second, feel it, but don't feed it. This is big. Emotions are signals, not commands. Just because you feel something doesn't mean you have to obey it. Let's say you feel jealousy. That doesn't mean you have to start comparing yourself to others or resenting someone else's success. It just means, hey, maybe there's something I want that I'm not pursuing fully. Boom! Signal received. Now act from clarity, not from chaos. Third, have a go-to strategy. You need a set of emotional tools ready when things get hard. Because, trust me, when your nervous system is in full alert mode, you're not going to suddenly come up with a brilliant plan on the spot. So, have your tools. And yes, these are super practical. Breathing techniques. Slow, intentional breathing can regulate your nervous system in under 60 seconds. Look into box breathing or Andrew Huberman's physiological sigh. Movement. Walk it off. Literally, a quick walk, a workout, even 5 minutes of stretching can shift your entire state. Journaling. Not just for poets. Get the thoughts out of your head and onto paper. It gives your mind room to breathe. Cold exposure. Yeah, it sounds intense, but even a cold shower or splash of cold water can reset your system and ground you. Talking to someone, the right person, not just someone who'll validate your spiral, but someone who'll help you zoom out. Your emotional responses are like wild horses, powerful. But if you never learn how to rein them in, they'll destroy everything you build. And here's something uncomfortable but true. You can be smart, talented, passionate, and still fail if you don't learn emotional self-control. Now, let's flip it around. What happens when you do master your emotions? You become dangerous in the best way. Because now you don't flinch in conflict. You don't crumble under stress. You can sit with tension, think clearly, and act wisely even when the stakes are high. You become someone who others trust, not because you always have the right answer, but because you don't lose your head when things get messy. You become someone who leads not by force, but by presence. That's rare, that's valuable, that's powerful. Now, here's a truth you need to hear. Your emotional patterns are learned. You weren't born snapping at people. You weren't born avoiding confrontation. You weren't born shutting down every time you felt rejected. These are strategies you learned probably to protect yourself. And that's okay. That kept you safe at one point, but now they might be the very thing holding you back. The good news, what was learned can be unlearned, but you have to be intentional. Watch yourself. When you react, pause. Ask, where is this coming from? Is this who I want to be? And if the answer is no, don't shame yourself. Just notice, learn, adjust. Every time you do that, you take back a little more power. Now, I want to zoom in on one specific emotional pattern that destroys progress more than almost anything else: resentment. Resentment is poison. It feels justified. It feels righteous. But it eats away at your energy, your joy, your clarity. You can't build a meaningful life with resentment in your heart. So, if you're carrying resentment toward your parents, your ex, your boss, your old friends, you need to address it. That doesn't mean excusing their behavior. It means releasing your grip on the story that says they owe you peace. Because they don't. And waiting for them to fix your life, that's a trap. Take your power back. Forgiveness isn't about them, it's about freeing yourself. And the moment you do that, you open up space. Space for creativity, for growth, for progress. So here's the homework. Yeah, I said homework. For the next week, every time you feel a strong emotion, pause and name it. Ask yourself, is this mine or is this old programming? Then take a breath. Do something physical. Move the emotion through your body instead of letting it sit in your mind. That one shift, just that, can change your entire day and eventually your life. Because when you master your emotions, you stop being reactive and start being intentional. And that's when you truly become dangerous in the best, most grounded, most focused way. Let's talk about something that doesn't get enough attention in the world of self-development, self-worth. Because here's the hard truth. Most people are trying to achieve their way into feeling worthy. They think, once I get the job, once I get the relationship, once I hit 100K, once I lose the weight, then I'll feel like I'm enough. But that's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. Self-worth doesn't come from achievement. It comes from alignment, from showing up as the kind of person you know you were meant to be, even when no one's watching. Let me say that again, even when no one's watching. Because here's what I've seen over and over again in clients, in students, in myself. When you act out of integrity, when you say one thing but do another, when you break promises to yourself, when you betray your own values, you lose trust in yourself. And that's where low self-worth begins. It's not always trauma. It's not always some deep psychological wound. Sometimes it's just a long list of small moments where you told yourself, I'll do it tomorrow, and didn't. And every time that happens, a small part of you stops believing your own voice. So let's change that. Let's rebuild trust with yourself. How? Simple, make small promises and keep them. Not to impress anyone, not to post online, just to remind yourself, I'm someone who follows through. Wake up when you said you would. Go for that 15-minute walk, even when you don't feel like it. Finish the book you started. Do the dishes instead of scrolling. These things seem tiny, but they're not. They're signals, proof. Proof to your subconscious that you are who you say you are. And once you stack enough of those moments, you build something unshakable identity. Because that's what identity is, not a label, not a vibe, not an aesthetic. Identity is built through action. Want to be a writer? Write even if it's just 100 words a day. Want to be fit? Move your body even if it's 10 minutes in your living room. Want to be disciplined? Start showing up for the smallest things even when it's hard. Your brain is watching. Your spirit is watching. Every day they're asking the same question, can I trust you? And you answer with your habits, not with your dreams, not with your Instagram quotes, with your habits. Now, let's talk about comparison, because that's the thief of self-worth for a lot of people right now. You scroll and scroll and scroll, and suddenly you feel like your life is 5 steps behind, like everyone else has it figured out, and you're just stuck. But let's get honest. Social media is a highlight reel. It's not life. It's not reality. And it's certainly not a fair metric for self-worth. You're not supposed to be like anyone else. You're not in competition with them. You're in competition with your previous self. That's it. That's the only person you need to outgrow. So next time you feel behind, ask a better question. Am I further along than I was 6 months ago? A year ago? And if the answer is no, don't shame yourself. Just start again. Not with some massive transformation, just one small change, one small promise. Because the real game isn't speed, it's consistency. A slow, consistent person will outperform a fast, inconsistent one every time. Let's zoom in even further. Think about this. What would it feel like to actually be proud of yourself every day? Not because you did something huge, not because you won an award or closed a deal, just because you showed up. You followed through on your values. You didn't run from the hard thing. You gave your best even when it was inconvenient. That feeling, that quiet, grounded pride, that's what self-worth really feels like. And it's available to you right now. Not 10 pounds from now, not $10, 000 from now, not 10 followers from now. Right now. But only if you're willing to trade temporary comfort for long-term confidence. Let's get practical. Here are 3 identity-building questions to ask yourself every morning. Who do I want to be today? What's one action that aligns with that identity? What might try to stop me, and how will I respond? That last one's key. Because, let's be real, life throws curveballs. You're going to get tired. You're going to get distracted. You're going to have days when nothing goes according to plan. But if you already know what might knock you off course, and you already know how you'll respond, you're 10x more likely to stay the course. That's not motivation. That's strategy. Let's bring it back to emotional safety for a second. A lot of people chase success because they think it'll finally make them feel safe. But guess what? You can have the money, the status, the perfect body, and still feel like a fraud if you don't trust yourself. Real safety comes from knowing, no matter what happens, I will show up. I will have my own back. I will not abandon myself. That's the highest form of self-worth there is. And yeah, it takes time. It takes repetition. It takes forgiveness when you slip and grit when you want to quit. But it's possible. And when you get there, you stop chasing validation. You stop needing applause. You stop performing for approval. You just live. You just grow. You just do the work because it matters to you. And that's when life starts to feel different. Not louder, not flashier, but deeper, realer, truer. Let's get into something that's often overlooked in personal development, your environment. You've probably heard the quote, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." And sure, that's true, but it's bigger than just people. Your environment shapes your identity constantly. Think about it. Every time you walk into a room, glance at your phone, scroll through a feed, open your fridge, look at your workspace, you're being influenced. Your surroundings are sending you messages about who you are and what you expect of yourself. And if you're constantly surrounded by noise, clutter, negativity, distraction, chaos, well, what kind of life do you expect to build in that? Let's break this down into 2 parts: physical environment and social environment. Part 1, physical environment. What does your space say about you? You don't need a mansion or a Pinterest-worthy home, but you do need order. You need signals of intention. Here's a rule I live by. Design your space to make the right thing easy and the wrong thing hard. Want to work out more? Put your shoes and clothes by the door the night before. Want to read more? Place a book on your pillow or by the coffee machine. Want to stop binge watching? Unplug your TV after every use or delete the app from your home screen. Small things, big impact. Your space is either working for you or against you. And every drawer, every notification, every item left out, is casting a vote for the type of person you're becoming. Don't underestimate that. When I reorganized my workspace a few years ago, productivity didn't just go up. Clarity went up. My mind felt less cluttered. I had a sense of control. And it wasn't because I bought expensive gear. It was because I removed distractions and created a visual reminder of my values. So, look around. What in your space is holding you back? What needs to go? What could be simplified? And more importantly, what could be added to inspire you? Even just a few things. A quote on your wall, a clean desk, a morning light by your journal. These aren't aesthetic upgrades, they're psychological levers. Part 2, social environment. Now let's talk about people, because this one hits deep. You already know that if you're constantly surrounded by pessimistic, distracted, unmotivated people, it's going to drag you down. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. Energy is contagious. Beliefs are contagious. Habits are contagious. So ask yourself, who around me pushes me forward and who pulls me back? I'm not saying cut off your childhood best friend because they're having a rough year. This isn't about superiority. It's about awareness. You need at least a few people in your life who talk about ideas, not just people. Celebrate your growth, not just tolerate it. Call you out when you're playing small. Inspire action, not just venting. Make you feel more like you. And if you don't have that yet, it's okay. You can build it. You can seek it out. Start by being that person for someone else. Be the one who encourages, who dreams big, who follows through, who stays disciplined, who asks better questions. And slowly your circle will shift. People will rise with you or they'll fall away, and either outcome is okay. Now, here's a game changer, your digital environment. We live half our lives online. So take a hard look at your feeds, your inbox, your tabs. Are you constantly consuming negativity? Are you following people who spark envy or insecurity? Are you getting dopamine hits from endless scrolling but feeling empty afterward? Clean it up. Curate your feed like your future depends on it, because it kind of does. Follow people who challenge you, who teach you, who inspire you, not just entertain you. Mute, unfollow, block as needed. This isn't personal, it's protection, because your attention is your most valuable asset, and you are hemorrhaging it to things that do not serve your vision. Start asking, is this helping me become who I want to be? If not, it goes. Let's shift into something deeper energy, because all the planning, all the environment hacking, all the motivation in the world won't help you if you don't manage your energy. You're not a machine. You're a biological system. And your performance, mental, physical, emotional, rises and falls with your energy management. Start with the basics. Sleep, non-negotiable, 7-9 hours. Quality matters more than quantity. No screens before bed. Cool room. Wind-down routine. Respect your circadian rhythm like your life depends on it, because it does. Nutrition. Eat like you love yourself. Whole foods, protein, hydration, blood sugar stability. Don't starve yourself. Don't eat like a raccoon at 11 p.m. You know this stuff. Just stop ignoring it. Movement. You don't need a gym membership. You need motion. Walk, stretch, dance, lift. Just don't be still all day. Your body is a power plant. It produces energy through movement. Sunlight. Get outside. First thing in the morning if possible. 10 minutes of sunlight in your eyes is worth more than a triple espresso. And then layer in mental hygiene. time in silence, deep, focused work, laughter, real conversations, creating something. These things fuel you. They don't just fill time. They build emotional resilience, focus, clarity, and joy. Now, here's the paradox. High performers don't do more because they push harder. They do more because they recover better. Read that again. It's not about working yourself into the ground. It's about managing your capacity, knowing when to go hard and when to rest with intention. Because burnout isn't noble, it's a signal that you're not managing your energy, that your systems are off, that you're trying to produce without refueling. Don't ignore that. Instead, build a rhythm, sprints of focus, breaks of rest, nourishment, sleep, repeat. That's the rhythm of mastery. Let's dive into a concept that separates those who dream of transformation from those who live it: accountability. See, people love motivation. They binge watch it. They collect quotes. They make vision boards. That's fine. It feels good. But motivation is temporary. It gets you started. What keeps you going? Accountability. And I'm not just talking about having a coach or an accountability partner, although those can be great tools. I'm talking about an internal standard, a voice inside you that says, no one's watching. No one will know, but I will. That's where real progress happens. Because there's a version of you, deeper, truer, that's always watching, always aware of whether your actions match your intentions. When you ignore that voice, it gets quieter. When you honor it, it gets louder. So, here's a simple test. What's one promise you've been breaking to yourself repeatedly? Waking up earlier, not hitting snooze. Staying off social media for the first hour of the day, writing your book, launching your idea. Pick one, just one. And for the next 7 days, treat it like it matters. Like it's a promise to someone you deeply respect, because it is you. Now, let's pivot to a truth that not everyone wants to face, but it's key if you want to build a life of real power and peace. Adversity is coming. Not maybe, not possibly, definitely. You will lose things. You will fail at things. You will be misunderstood, criticized, rejected, blindsided. That's not pessimism. That's life. But here's the beautiful part: you can prepare for it. You can become the kind of person who doesn't just survive adversity, but gets stronger because of it. This is what Nassim Taleb calls being anti-fragile. It's not about being unbreakable. It's about being the kind of person who uses pressure to grow. Let's make it practical. When things go wrong, don't ask, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this here to teach me? That's not toxic positivity. It's a shift in responsibility. It means taking ownership for your response even when the situation is outside of your control. You didn't choose the trauma, true. You didn't ask for the betrayal. Of course not. You didn't deserve the failure. Probably not. But you still own your next move. That's your power. That's how you stop living as a victim and start living as a force. And here's where things get real. Your response to adversity is often decided before adversity hits. If you've been building strength, structure, perspective, and discipline, then when the storm comes, you're ready. If you've been avoiding hard things, numbing discomfort, living in distraction, then when the storm comes, you collapse. So ask yourself, what hard things am I avoiding right now? What conversations am I too scared to have? What truth about my life have I been unwilling to face? Your answers to those questions, they're the edge of your growth. Lean into them. bit by bit, with compassion, but with courage. You don't need to conquer everything today, but you do need to stop running. Because here's what's on the other side of facing your pain. Freedom. Not the fake kind of freedom that comes from quitting. The real kind. The kind that says, I've been through hell, and I'm still here, stronger, smarter, softer where it matters, sharper where it counts. That's the kind of strength that can't be bought, can't be faked, can't be inherited. It's earned. Let's talk about pain for a second, because it's the great equalizer. Everyone faces it. But here's what separates the uncommon from the average. Uncommon people give their pain a purpose. Instead of numbing it, they study it. Instead of avoiding it, they use it as fuel. Instead of letting it define them, they turn it into wisdom. And that's available to you right now, no matter your past, no matter your starting point. It starts when you stop asking for comfort and start asking for clarity. Clarity on who you are. Clarity on what you value. Clarity on what you're willing to endure to become the person you're meant to be. You might be thinking, but what if I fail? What if I try and it doesn't work? What if I give it everything and still fall short? You might. But ask the better question, what if you succeed? What if you grow into someone so focused, so grounded, so strong that failure doesn't break you? Because that's what this is really about, not avoiding failure, but becoming the kind of person who's not afraid of it anymore. Let me leave you with this. Most people are one honest decision away from a different life. Not 100 steps, not a 10-year plan, just one brave choice. To face the truth, to keep a promise, to say no to what's no longer serving you, to finally bet on yourself. So what's your decision? What's your one step? Don't think about the whole mountain. Just take the first step, then take the next, then take the next, and suddenly you're no longer stuck. You're in motion. You're in control. You're becoming someone you respect. And that's worth everything, Dot. So here we are. We've talked about vision, discipline, emotional mastery, self-worth, environment, energy, and resilience. But none of it matters, not one word, unless you're willing to do the hardest thing of all. Let go of who you've been. Because, let's be honest, that version of you who keeps overthinking, who keeps breaking promises to themselves, who keeps replaying the past, who keeps shrinking to fit in, that version has brought you here. But it won't take you there. And the shift you need, it's not a new strategy. It's not another podcast episode. It's not another morning routine hack. The shift is identity. It's standing up emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and saying, that version of me, grateful for them, but I'm done living like them. I'm not fragile. I'm not scattered. I'm not lost. I am becoming. And that begins today. That's the real beginning. Not when the calendar flips, not on Monday, not when your circumstances line up. Now, because here's what they don't tell you. The people you admire, the ones who inspire you, they're not made of something different. They've just made different decisions, and they made them consistently. They didn't wait to feel ready. They didn't need everyone to believe in them. They didn't require the perfect conditions. They started messy, clumsy, uncertain. But they started. And while everyone else was talking about change, they were living it. So here's your real challenge. If you're brave enough, start before you're confident. Take action while you're scared. Show up even when you doubt yourself. Because guess what? Everyone doubts themselves. The difference is the ones who grow just refuse to let doubt drive the car. They hear the voice of fear and move anyway. They face the discomfort and do it anyway. They fall and get up again. That's the mindset. That's the shift. You don't need more validation. You need more reps, more days of keeping your word, more early mornings, more hard conversations, more meals that fuel instead of numb, more time doing the thing, not researching the thing, more of the boring, beautiful, brave repetition that builds who you are. And yeah, it's going to feel invisible at first. No one will notice when you start showing up different. They'll still expect the old you. They'll roll their eyes when you say no. They'll gossip, doubt, dismiss. Let them. Because 6 months from now, you'll be unrecognizable. Your habits sharper, your mind clearer, your circle tighter, your energy unapologetic. And those same people, they'll wonder how you did it. But you'll know it wasn't a single breakthrough. It was 1,000 micro decisions made in silence when no one was clapping. It was nights you journaled instead of drank. Mornings you moved instead of scrolled. Conversations. You ended relationships. You left boundaries. You enforced. It was the day you stopped needing someone else to save you and saved yourself. And you'll look in the mirror, not perfectly healed, not perfectly confident, but grounded, centered, proud. Because you'll realize I didn't wait for the world to change. I changed. And now the world has to catch up. Let this be the season where you stop apologizing for your hunger. Stop negotiating with your potential. Stop rehearsing your limitations like they're facts. This is your time. Not because the stars aligned, but because you did. So go. Write the page. Start the business. Fix the sleep. Have the talk. Cut the noise. Take the step. Face the fear. Move the needle. Change the ending. Become the person they never saw coming. And when they ask how you did it, you'll smile. Because deep down, you'll know I didn't wait for permission. I didn't need a sign. I just decided it was time. And that decision, that's what changed everything.